I was 22 years old when my family gave me my sister's newborn son and told me it was the right thing to do. No warning. No preparation. No choice, not really. Just a phone call at 2 in the morning, a 40-minute drive through dark empty roads, and a kitchen table where my mother was sitting with cold tea and a plan she'd already decided on before I arrived. My name is Mara Ellis. I grew up in Clover Falls, Ohio, population 10,000, the kind of town where the librarian knows your grades and the church knows your business. There were two of us, me and my sister, Layla. She was 6 years younger, the pretty one, the one who walked into rooms and made people feel warmer just by being there. I was the other one, the reliable one, the one who set the table, drove Layla to practice, and never needed checking on because everyone assumed I'd figure it out. My mother, Carol, had one operating principle. Layla was fragile. Layla needed protecting. And I was strong enough to handle whatever nobody else wanted to carry. That March, I just finished my education degree. Full scholarship to a master's program. A studio apartment with a window facing a parking lot that I thought was the most beautiful thing I'd ever owned, because it was mine. Then the phone rang. Layla was 16. 4 months pregnant. The father, a boy named Tyler who drove a Mustang and worked weekends at the movie theater, had already stopped returning her calls. I drove home and sat at that kitchen table while my mother laid out the situation like a general briefing troops. Adoption meant paperwork, and paperwork meant people finding out. Keeping the baby meant a teenage mother in the house, which Carol would not allow. Then she went to the hall closet and came back with a small yellow blanket.
Soft.
Faded at the edges. "This was yours when you were born," she said, placing it in my hands.
She didn't ask me. She informed me.
"You have to help. You're her sister." The next morning it was made plain. If I said no, the baby went to strangers by Friday. Layla would go back to school.
We would never speak of it again.
I asked the only question that mattered. Does Layla want to keep him? My mother waved her hand. Layla is a child. She doesn't know what she wants. I looked at my sister sitting on the couch with her knees pulled to her chest, mascara smudged, wearing a hoodie 3 sizes too big. She was 16 years old and terrified, and no one in that room was actually asking her anything. "Layla," I said, "what do you want?" She looked at my mother, then at me, then at the floor. "I just wanted to go away," she whispered.
My mother nodded like that settled it.
2 weeks later, I called and said yes. I withdrew from my master's program the next morning. Noah was born on a Tuesday in July. 6 pounds 11 ounces. Full head of dark hair. A scream that rattled the delivery room windows. When the nurse asked who was taking him home, 3 people stood in that room. Layla turned her face toward the wall. My mother didn't move. The nurse looked at me. I said. 3 days later, I carried Noah into my 1-bedroom apartment. A borrowed crib, dollar store diapers, and the yellow blanket from my mother's closet, the same one that had wrapped me 22 years before. I wrapped him in it that first night. It barely covered him, but it was warm and it was ours, and that was enough. The first year nearly broke me. Noah had colic. 4 hours of crying every night, 8 p.m. to midnight, without fail. I walked circles around my apartment holding him against my chest, humming songs I half remembered from childhood, watching the clock like it owed me something. I was a teaching assistant. 7:45 to 3:30, then home to an infant who wouldn't sleep. I learned to function on 4 hours. I learned to eat standing up. I learned to shower in under 3 minutes because 3 minutes was exactly how long Noah would tolerate the bouncy seat. One night, after he'd been crying for 3 straight hours, I called my mother. I was standing in the kitchen in sweatpants and a formula-stained shirt, and I was crying too. "Mom, I need help. Just for one night." Her voice was steady. "You chose this, Mara. You're an adult. Figured out." She hung up. Layla moved to Boston that August. Tuition paid by scholarships and our parents' savings, the same savings my mother said couldn't cover Noah's pediatrician bills when I asked. She graduated summa cum laude 4 years later. My parents drove to Boston for the ceremony. They had the photo professionally framed, 18 by 24, matted in silver, hung in the living room. Noah's first day of kindergarten photo was on my refrigerator, held up by a ladybug magnet. It was not in their house at all. 6 years passed. Noah took his first steps, said his first word, "Ma." Short and certain, like he'd already identified the most important thing and saw no need for extra syllables. He started reading at 3, asked me what riboflavin meant off a cereal box at 4, marched into kindergarten with his dinosaur backpack and didn't look back, which made me cry alone in my car for 15 minutes. Nobody from my family visited during those years. Not once. Then Layla called. Noah was 6. I was making spaghetti. He was at the table drawing a dinosaur eating a spaceship. The phone rang, Boston area code, and I almost didn't answer. She didn't ask how Noah was doing. Didn't ask what grade he was in, or whether the colic had passed. She asked about a car she'd left in our parents' garage. A 2003 Toyota she needed to sell for her apartment deposit. The call lasted 42 seconds. I timed it afterward because I couldn't believe that was the whole conversation. The years stacked up. I went back to school, night classes while working full-time and raising Noah, and earned my master's degree in special education. I graduated when Noah was 8. One friend, Claire, sat in the 3rd row and cheered loud enough for 10 people. Nobody from my family came. I became special education coordinator at Clover Falls High School. Nobody called to congratulate me, but I had stopped waiting for that call around year 4. Then one evening when Noah was 8, he looked up from his homework with those dark, too perceptive eyes. Mom. He stopped. Tried again. Can I call you Mom instead of Aunt Mara? Is that okay? I hadn't cried in years. Not when Carol refused to help. Not when Layla called about a car. Not when birthdays passed without a card from anyone. But when an 8-year-old boy asked permission to call me his mother, something in me gave way completely. He walked around the table and hugged me. Small arms, tight grip. He smelled like pencil shavings and grape juice. It's okay, Mom, he said.
First time.
2 months before graduation, Noah came home from school and set his phone on the kitchen counter. Screen up. Face serious.
Mom.
You need to see this. It was a family group chat. Carol, Gerald, Layla, Aunt Patricia, Uncle Dave. Someone had added Noah to the thread by accident. Probably Carol, who treated her phone like a foreign object. The messages went back 2 years. I scrolled through them sitting at the kitchen table while Noah stood by the window with his arms crossed, watching me the way he always did when something important was happening. Quietly, carefully, measuring my reaction before forming his own. Carol. 14 months ago. When Layla is ready, she'll take Noah back. Mara is just keeping him for now. Layla. 3 days later. Give me a couple more years. I'm getting my life together. Gerald. A thumbs up emoji. His entire contribution to 19 years of this situation, distilled into one icon. Aunt Patricia. Poor Layla. She's been through so much. Uncle Dave. Mara should be grateful she got to have a kid at all. I read every message twice. My hands were steady because they had to be. For 2 years, my family had been discussing the return of my son like he was a borrowed piece of furniture. Like I was a storage unit. Like 19 years of school lunches and homework and ER visits and Christmas mornings with newspaper wrapping paper were just temporary arrangements until the real mother got her life together. I set the phone down. Why didn't you show me this sooner? Noah was quiet for a moment. Because I didn't want you to lose them, even though they don't deserve you. 17 years old. Standing in my kitchen. Protecting me from my own family. I didn't call Carol. Didn't forward the screenshots. Didn't do any of the dramatic things you might expect. What I did was quiet. I opened the fireproof safe under my bed and checked every document. Guardianship papers, valid. Voluntary relinquishment, signed. Notarized, filed. School records with my name on every emergency contact line for 19 years. Medical records with my signature on every consent form since his first vaccination. Then I found the yellow blanket folded in the corner of the safe. Faded. Frayed at every edge. Smelling like something I could no longer name. I held it for a moment, put it back, closed the safe. If they wanted a fight, the paperwork was ready. But I wasn't going to start one. 6 weeks before graduation, Carol called with news that had nothing to do with Noah's valedictorian announcement. Your sister has met someone, she said, the way people announce lottery wins. His name is Harrison. He's successful, traditional. He wants a family, Mara. A real family. Layla told him about Noah, about how the family situation forced her to make a difficult choice. What choice was that? I asked. You know what I mean. The choice to let you help. Let me help. That was how my mother described 19 years of solo parenthood. Letting me help. Harrison wants to meet Noah, Carol continued. This could be Layla's chance. Her chance. Not Noah's chance. Not the family's chance to finally reckon with what it had done. Layla's chance. 3 weeks later, Noah came into the kitchen holding his phone.
She messaged me.
An Instagram DM from an account with a professional headshot and 4,000 followers. Hey, handsome. I know this is out of the blue, but I'm your bio mom. I've thought about you every single day. I would love to meet you. I'm coming to town soon. 3 heart emojis. I read it twice.
Set down my pen.
Looked at Noah. What do you want to do? He thought about it for 2 full minutes. Then he typed, Hi. Thank you for reaching out. I appreciate you thinking of me. No warmth. No invitation. Just a surface acknowledgement that a message had been received. Layla replied within 90 seconds. Can't wait to see you at graduation. I'm bringing someone special. Noah read it. Locked his phone. Put it face down on the table. Same avoidance. Different font. The call came 9 days before graduation. Carol's number. Vanessa will be at the ceremony. She's bringing Harrison.
Do not make a scene, Mara.
I have never made a scene in my life.
Good.
Because this is an important day for Layla. I held the phone away from my ear and stared at it. An important day for Layla. Not for Noah, the one graduating. Not for me, the one who'd shown up to every single thing for 19 years. For Layla, who was flying in from Chicago with a new boyfriend to perform the role of mother for an audience. She's bringing a cake, Carol added. Something special. That's nice, I said. Because there was nothing else to say. Graduation morning. I woke at 5:30 and couldn't go back to sleep. Made coffee. Sat at the kitchen table listening to the house breathe. Noah's cap and gown were hanging on the back of the dining room chair. Navy blue, gold tassel. I'd pressed them carefully 3 days ago, damp cloth between the iron and the polyester, the way my mother had taught me when I was 10. Noah came downstairs at 7. Showered, dressed, shaved, though there was barely anything to shave. White button-down. Dark slacks. How do you feel? Hungry. I made eggs and toast and orange juice. We ate in comfortable silence. Morning light came through the kitchen window and hit the salt shaker just right, throwing a small rainbow across the table. Can I see the speech? I tried one last time. You'll hear it, he said. From the 3rd row. After breakfast, he went upstairs to finish getting ready. I washed the dishes, dried them, put them away, the same motion I'd done 10,000 times in this kitchen. When I came back downstairs, Noah was standing in the hallway adjusting his cap in the mirror. Something in his hand.
Small.
Yellow. Folded. The blanket. He was tucking it into the inside pocket of his vest. He saw me watching. Held my gaze in the mirror. For good luck, he said. Then he smiled, picked up his diploma folder, and walked to the door. I picked up my keys and followed my son to his graduation. The gymnasium at Clover Falls High School holds 400 people. Every seat was taken. Claire and I found our spots in the 3rd row, left side, close enough to see the podium clearly. I smoothed my dress, placed my purse under my chair, folded my hands in my lap. Then the double doors at the back opened. Layla walked in like she was arriving at a gala. Emerald green dress. Auburn hair in loose waves. Heels that clicked on the hardwood floor. Smile wide enough to be seen from the stage. Harrison beside her, gray suit, silver watch, the easy posture of a man accustomed to being the most impressive person in any room. Behind them, Carol and Gerald. And in Carol's hands, resting on a plastic tray with a paper doily underneath, a cake. White frosting. Pink lettering. Congratulations from your real mom. 200 people finding their seats. Families hugging. A school orchestra tuning in the corner. And my mother walking down the center aisle carrying a cake that told the entire room my son belonged to someone else. I did not move. I did not speak. Claire reached over and took my hand. Before the ceremony started, Layla made her way to the staging area where graduates were lining up. She found Noah in the line and hugged him, a full theatrical embrace, both arms, head tilted for maximum visibility. Noah stood completely rigid. His arms stayed at his sides. Then Layla walked toward me, heels clicking, smile locked in place. She stopped at the end of my row and leaned close enough for the people behind us to hear. Bara, Thank you so much for taking care of my son all these years. You've been an incredible babysitter. She placed her hand on my shoulder. But I'm here now. I'll take it from here. Babysitter. 19 years. 4,000 school lunches. 300 parent-teacher conferences. 11,000 bedtime stories. Every birthday cake I baked myself because bakery cakes cost $40 and that was a week of groceries. Babysitter. I did not respond. Not because I had nothing to say. I had 19 years of things to say. I didn't respond because I saw Noah watching us from the staging area, standing very still, jaw tight, eyes locked on mine. And in those eyes I read a message, as clearly as if he'd spoken it aloud. Wait for me. So I waited. The ceremony moved through its paces. The principal welcomed everyone. The superintendent delivered a 12-minute speech containing 6 sports metaphors. Then the graduates began crossing the stage one by one, name called, diploma received, handshake, photograph. Layla had moved to the row, directly in front of me. Phone out, recording. Every time a student crossed the stage, she lowered it, saving the battery for the moment she'd been rehearsing in her head. Carol sat at the end of her row, the cake on her lap, guarding it like it contained state secrets. Then Summers Noah. Everything else fell away. He walked across that stage tall and steady, cap perfectly straight. He shook the superintendent's hand, received his diploma, and looked down at me in the third row. He winked. Then he walked to the podium. Dylan adjusted the microphone, unfolded his notes, cleared his throat. Good morning, graduates, families, faculty. Thank you for being here. He started warm. Freshman year disorientation. A substitute teacher who showed movies for 6 straight weeks. The cafeteria's mysterious meat situation. The crowd laughed. Layla laughed loudest, her hand on Harrison's arm. He talked about teachers who stayed late. The janitor who knew every student's name. The librarian who kept granola bars for kids who came to school hungry. He was good. Natural. The audience was completely with him. Then he paused. He looked down at the paper in his hands. Studied it for 3 seconds. 5. Then he folded it, carefully, deliberately, the same way he had folded the yellow blanket when he was 8 years old. He placed it on the podium. And he began speaking without notes. I've been planning this speech for 6 weeks, he said. I wrote 9 drafts. But I realized this morning that the most important thing I want to say isn't on any of those pages. The gymnasium went quiet. The particular quiet that settles over 400 people when they simultaneously sense something unexpected is coming. Layla leaned forward slightly. She thought he was about to talk about her. I could see it in the way she straightened her posture, the way she squeezed Harrison's hand. She was preparing for her moment. She had no idea what was coming. The person I want to thank most today, Noah said, is not a teacher, not a coach, not a friend. He paused. It's a woman who was 22 years old when she was handed a newborn baby and told, "This is your responsibility now." She had never changed a diaper. She had just been accepted into a master's program with a full scholarship. She gave it up the next morning without hesitation. Somewhere in the back of the gymnasium, someone sniffed. She moved into a 1-bedroom apartment and figured it out. 4 hours of sleep a night for the first year. She wrapped my Christmas presents in newspaper because she couldn't afford wrapping paper. He paused. Let it land. She went back to school when I was 5. Night classes for years, while working full-time and raising me alone. She graduated with her master's degree and nobody from her family came to the ceremony. One friend sat in the 3rd row and cheered loud enough for 10 people. Claire squeezed my hand so hard I lost feeling in my fingers. She came to every parent-teacher conference, every school play, every awards assembly. She never missed one. She taught me to cook, to do laundry, to shake hands firmly, and look people in the eye. Layla was no longer smiling. Her phone had dropped to her lap. She was staring at Noah with an expression moving through confusion, then recognition, then something that looked very much like fear. Noah looked directly at me. 3rd row, left side. She is not the woman who gave birth to me, he said. But she is the woman who chose me. Every single day. For 19 years. Without complaining. Without quitting. Without ever asking for anything in return. His voice didn't crack. His hands didn't shake. He stood at that podium with the composure of someone who had spent 19 years learning composure from the most composed person he knew. Her name is Mara Ellis. She is my mother. The gymnasium erupted. 200 people on their feet, clapping, wiping eyes, turning to each other. The orchestra teacher in the corner pressing her program to her face. The principal standing by the stage steps with her hand over her heart. I sat in my plastic chair with tears running down my face and my hands shaking in my lap, and I could not move, could not speak, could not do anything except look at my son on that stage and feel 19 years arrive all at once. After the ceremony, Layla found me near the oak tree by the parking lot. She came fast, heels sinking into the grass. What did you tell him to say? You coached him. You turned my own son against me. Noah appeared behind her, still in his cap and gown, diploma in one hand. Nobody coached me, he said. His voice was even and quiet, the voice of someone who had thought this through long before today. I wrote that speech myself. Baby, I'm your mother. I carried you for 9 months. And then you signed a piece of paper and faxed it from a sorority house, Noah said. During rush week, Layla's mouth opened, closed. Grandma always said you had to leave because you had school, Noah continued. And you did go to school, and to a career, and to 2 marriages, and to Chicago. That's okay. But you don't get to walk into my graduation with a cake that says real mom and pretend those 19 years didn't happen. He turned to Carol, standing 10 feet away, still holding the cake. And Grandma, you told Dad this was Layla's chance. But this is my graduation, not her audition. Harrison, who had been silent through the entire exchange, watching with the careful attention of a man who knows when the numbers don't add up, turned to Layla. You told me you were forced to give him up, he said quietly. That's the word you used. Forced. Did you sign those papers voluntarily? I was 16. Did you sign voluntarily? The people around us had stopped pretending not to listen. Layla looked at Carol for rescue. Harrison looked at me. For the first time, really looked. You raised him from birth?
Yes.
Alone?
Yes.
He turned back to Layla. The warmth in his face was gone, replaced by something precise and final. He didn't say another word. He straightened his jacket, adjusted his watch, and walked across the grass toward the parking lot. His car started, clean, expensive, and pulled out past the school sign, past the gymnasium, and down the road toward the highway. Layla stood in her emerald dress, watching the only man who had ever made her want to be a mother drive away, because he had just learned she never was one. The cake sat on the grass where Carol had set it down. Nobody touched it. In the silence that followed, something shifted in Carol's face. She was looking at Noah. Not at Layla.
Not at me.
At Noah, standing there in his cap and gown, yellow tassel brushing his shoulder. Her grandson, the baby she had handed to me 19 years ago with a yellow blanket and an ultimatum. Her eyes went wet. Her lip trembled. And for one brief moment, 3 seconds, maybe 5, I saw something in my mother's face I had never seen before. Regret. Real, unfiltered regret. She opened her mouth. This is it, I thought. This is the moment. 19 years, and it finally breaks open. Mara, she said, if you hadn't poisoned him against his own mother, none of this would have happened. And just like that, the moment closed. The wet eyes dried. The trembling lip set itself back into its familiar firm line. The regret, if it had ever truly been regret, collapsed back into the fortress she had been living inside since before I was born. Gerald stood behind her, quiet as ever, staring at the grass. He had not said one word all day. Noah looked at Carol with an expression I recognized. Patient, not angry. The look of someone who has accepted that certain doors simply don't open.
Grandma, he said.
Do you know how many of my memories include you? He didn't wait for an answer. 7 Thanksgivings. 3 Christmases. 1 birthday card. That's it. 19 years. He paused. Do you know how many include Mom?
He looked at me.
All of them. Every single one. Because she was there. Carol had no answer for that. There is no answer for that. Noah turned to Layla. She was 3 feet away, mascara streaked, arms wrapped around herself, the emerald dress catching the afternoon wind.
I'm not trying to hurt you, he said.
I need you to hear that. I'm not angry, and I'm not punishing you. But if you want to be in my life, genuinely in it, you can be.
I'd like that. But you have to start from now.
Not from a cake. Not from an Instagram post that says my son, my pride, when you don't know my GPA, my best friend's name, or what I'm allergic to. Layla blinked. What are you allergic to?
Tree nuts, Noah said.
Since I was 4. Mom figured it out when I broke out in hives at a birthday party. She drove me to the ER doing 60 in a 35 zone and sat in the waiting room for 4 hours holding a juice box. Then he reached into his vest pocket and pulled out something small and yellow and faded. The blanket. He unfolded it slowly, held it for a moment, thin as tissue, frayed at every edge, soft from 19 years of meaning more than a blanket should ever have to mean. Then he walked to me, took my hand, and placed it in my palm.
This is yours, Mom.
It always was. I stood there holding that blanket, cedar and baby shampoo and 19 years of being someone's entire world. I could not speak. There was nothing left to say. My son had said it all. Claire put her arm around my shoulders. The parents nearby were silent. Even the tuba player had stopped packing up his instrument. Carol and Gerald walked to the parking lot without looking back. Layla stood alone on the grass for a long time. Nobody approached her. Nobody spoke to her. Eventually, she walked away too, heels still sinking, dress still catching the wind, toward a car that would take her back to a life that no longer had the shape she'd been planning. The cake sat near the oak tree where Carol had set it down. Congratulations from your real mom. 200 people had just watched a 19-year-old boy name his real mom. It wasn't the woman on the cake. People ask me if I resent the years. The master's program I gave up. The savings I never built. The graduations nobody came to. The birthdays that passed without a card. I don't. I resent that it was necessary. I resent that a 16-year-old girl was never properly asked what she wanted. I resent that a baby was handed to a 22-year-old like a problem to be managed and then discussed in group chats like borrowed property 19 years later. But the life I built from that? Noah's first word. His first steps. Scrambled eggs on graduation morning. A rainbow through the kitchen window from a salt shaker catching the light at just the right angle. A yellow blanket, thin as tissue, placed back in my hands by the person it was always meant for. I would not trade a single day. Biology is an accident. Love is a decision.
My son wrote that.
He learned it somewhere.